A young man walks along the shore of a land called Flandyke. He raises his pistol and fires a bullet across the sea, aiming towards England, towards the lifeless body of his true love. It's a death that her father blames on him. What's going on here? You might recognise this story as the last verse of the song Flandyke Shore. In all honesty, the first two verses don't give us a lot to go on either. In the first, a young man visits his love to tell her he's going to go away forever. And in the second, he makes an illicit visit to her chamber and sees a mysterious light coming from her clothes. Like many people, I learned this enigmatic and dreamlike song from the album Penguin Eggs by Nic Jones, and it was my dad who got me interested in the song. We both had a copy of the album, but the song hadn't really stood out to me at first. But Dad liked it, and encouraged by him, I kind of got hooked on the mystery. Nic Jones' version of Flandyke Shore, including the name, was collected in Dorset by the Hammond brothers in 1906 from a Mrs. Notley, who told them she'd learned it from a very old singer in the same village. But a similar version was collected in the same year in Somerset by Cecil Sharp. Both collectors assumed that Flandyke was a corruption of Flanders, the mainly Dutch-speaking region of what we now call Belgium. Importantly for our story, Flanders has been the theatre of many a war over the years. It's the sort of place that might tempt a young man with an opportunity to escape and a chance at glory. This tantalising song fragment appears to come from a much older song from the start of the 19th century, found both in England and Scotland. The English version contains most of what we hear in the Flandyke Shore, but in the context of a longer story. A lowly ploughman falls in love with a fair young maid, and he works long hours for her father for 7 whole years to try and win her hand. So already there's a whiff of fairy tale about this song. And then we hear this. I told her father secretly, his daughter I did highly prize. He locked her up in a room so high, Then first began my miseries. A hint of Rapunzel here, maybe. And then we get to the familiar bits of the song. He goes to her room to tell her he's going away, and he sails to Flanders. While he's there, he takes out his pistol and he shoots towards his love in England, as in our version. But it's only after this that he sails home to learn that his true love is dead. And then he goes to her chamber door and sees the mysterious light from her clothes, just like the morning sun when first arose. A generation later, in Ayrshire, Scotland, Andrew Crawford collected a Scots language version called Flanders Shore from Mrs. Cunningham. This song starts with a young man serving the lady's father for 7 years, and it ends with her ghost giving the grisly news that she died by her father's hand. But we can take this song back more than a century further, thanks to the diarist, bibliophile and ballad collector, Samuel Pepys. From his collection can be found The Unnatural Mother, or The Two Loyal Lovers' Fatal Overthrow, which is apparently set to an excellent new tune. This ballad has been dated between 1683 and 1696, placing it during the 9 Years' War, which included fighting in Flanders. When first of all I began for to woo, I loved a bonny lass as my life, and every day I did kindness show, yet ne'er could obtain her to be my wife. I served her father for 7 long years. I served her father right faithfully, from morning till noon, and from noon till night, and all to enjoy her good company. For when her own mother at length did hear that under her window I often came, she tyrant-like was the more severe. No mother was ever so much to blame. Her innocent daughter she took straightway, and bound her with chains in dungeon deep, not suffering her to behold the day, but there she in sorrow did sigh and weep. When to fair Flanders I did come, no rest nor comfort could I find. Though I did stand with glass in hand, still my true love ran in my mind. I took a pistol in my hand and charged it courageously. I shot a bullet into fair England, where I thought my true love might be. When to fair England I returned, I met her father in the street. My daughter is dead, said he, all for the sake of loving thee. I went to my love's chamber door, where oft times I had been before. There sprung a light from my love's clothes, just like the morning sun when rose. And there, over 300 years ago, we have the answer to our question. The man had been a labourer for many years on the promise that he could marry his sweetheart, but her family reneged on the agreement. They went so far as to lock their daughter up, mistreat and abuse her. Heartbroken, the man sails away to Flanders to become a soldier, but he finds no solace there. His shot across the waves comes from betrayal and frustration at his complete lack of power. In the original, he's yet to hear the news that his love is dead. Not from a broken heart, as her parents would have it, but most likely by their own hands. But the story doesn't end there. While the exile to Flanders and the mysterious light seem to be peculiar to Flandyke Shore, the cruel parents who lock their daughter away from an undesirable suitor, leading to her death, that's an older theme. The Aberdeenshire song Mill of Tifty's Annie, also known as Andrew Lammie, is a long tale of a daughter of a wealthy miller who was courted by a trumpeter in the service of the local lord. Not only do her parents lock her up, but there's a detailed description of their physical abuse of her and her violent death at the hand of her brother. Mill of Tifty's Annie, otherwise known as Agnes Smith, lived and died at Tifty Mill. You can still see her memorial stone in the churchyard of St. Peter's Church in Fyfe. She died in 1673. But woe be to her brother. In Flandyke Shore, the oral tradition has refined for us a strange gem over the last 300 years and more, with some help along the way by collectors and archivists. It inadvertently created a new mythical land. Like Atlantis or Tir na Nog, Flandyke is a theatre for our dreams, a place where meetings and events have no context. It's a land from which a young man can shoot a bullet right across the sea, or in a recent adaptation by Chris Weil and Ashley Hutchings, where he can send a spell to bring his love back to life. I went unto my love's chamber window, where I often have been before, to let her know unto Flandyke Shore, unto Flandyke Shore, never to return to England no more. I went unto my love's chamber door, where I never have been before. I saw a light springing from her clothes, springing from her clothes, just like the morning sun when first arose, just like the morning sun when first arose. broken her heart, oh, for the love of thee. So I hove a bullet onto a fair England shore, onto a fair England shore, just where I thought my own dear love did lay. Handed Down was presented by Jenny Shaw, who also supplied the incidental music for the episode. In preparing for this episode, I'm grateful to Fresno State University's Ballad Index and the English Broadside Ballad Archive housed at the University of California at Santa Barbara, the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library, the Mainly Norfolk website, and the good people of the Mudcat Cafe discussion forums. And I'm very grateful to the team at Stones Barn Cumbria and the wider Stones Barn community, without which this podcast would very definitely never have been made. And of course, to Stephen Shaw for all the encouragement and for finding me a name for this podcast.